Divorce Next Chapter. Hey, friends, welcome to Dishing on Divorce Next Chapter on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. I'm also a divorced mom of 3 now grown kids, a recovering lawyer, a current educator and spiritual counselor, and a divorce coach who's committed to transforming the divorce experience for everyone involved. The thing about divorce is that even though it's hard, you have the opportunity to start over. Sometimes people going through divorce are so mired in the fear and overwhelm that they overlook that very real step of opportunity to begin again. Life is a journey, and we have many twists and turns, whether we're married, single, divorced, widowed, or however we walk through life. And our mindset is our choice. Today's guest, Alyssa Dineen, is all about mindset and style, how we walk through our world. Alyssa Dineen is a published author and the founder of Style My Profile. It's a transformative service created to help online daters feel more confident and empowered as they navigate the modern dating world. With over 25 years of experience as a fashion editor, stylist, and art director, Alyssa established herself as a seasoned leader in the New York fashion world. In the past decade, Alyssa has also emerged as a pioneering figure in the online dating space. Her innovative approach combines her expertise in styling with her insights into dating, guiding clients on everything from personal presentation to effective communication with potential partners. An acclaimed dating expert, Alyssa has been featured in the New York Times, The Today Show, Goop, and Oprah Daily. She's also the author of The Art of Online Dating, published by HarperCollins in 2021, which offers valuable strategies for success in online dating. You can find more information about Alyssa and Style My Profile services at stylemyprofilenyc.com. Welcome, Alyssa Dineen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So, Alyssa, it's so important for us to learn how we shift our perspective and go off into the dating world. So many of my clients are terrified. Many of them haven't dated in 15, 20, 25 years. And the world is really different. The dating scene is different than it was way back when. So how do you help people? How do you ease their fears about walking that first step in or dipping your toes into the waters?
Yeah, I mean, it is really daunting and intimidating, and which is why I started Style My Profile, honestly, because I felt the same way when I got divorced and started online dating. I'd never done it before. I'd been with my ex for 18 years. And I really felt lost. And, really only someone who's been through it can really understand how it feels to get online after, never doing it before. So I really wanted to help other divorced people and single people navigate it and feel more prepared going into it. Because there were so many times where I feel like if I knew what I learned after 6 months of online dating in the beginning, I would have saved myself a lot of aggravation. And I feel like the more prepared people can be, the less intimidating it is, right? And talking to somebody who's been through it and knows, the ins and outs of it after seeing now thousands of profiles and working with hundreds of clients, I really have seen it all. And I really can explain step by step, how to approach it and how to, what steps to take first and continue on and have a successful, as much as possible, happy dating experience.
Right. Like dating should be fun.
Yeah, exactly. That is
right. But dating can be so scary. People go through different modes. Like as a divorce coach, I see some clients just want to get out there and date, and other clients just like put up a wall and they can't even go there. So, one of the questions I have for you is, how did you take your fashion space where you were in the clothes and the look and how you present yourself to the world and transform it into, a block of words, right? How do we present ourselves in words or in, selfies? I mean, so many people, their pictures on their site are selfies.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone feels like they can go to a stylist to do their profile. So how do you help people get over those obstacles or blocks?
Yeah, I mean, feeling confident, really does come from within. And I feel like, when I work with a client and help them revamp their style, it really is a noticeable difference in how they feel about themselves. And I know not everyone can work with a stylist. I understand that. But what I tell my audience who don't work with me one-on-one is, listen, even just treating yourself to one or two new items in your wardrobe can make a world of difference in how you feel getting out there. Whether it's for your selfie photo in your profile, which I'll get to that in a minute. I don't recommend selfies unless you've practiced them for a long time. But whether it's that or going on a date and just having even a new top or a new sweater or a new pair of jeans that make you feel really good about yourself, it really can make a world of difference.
So it's so interesting. As you're talking, I was watching one of the early episodes of Only Murders in the Building last night, and Steve Martin's character is going on a first date with someone that he's been, flirting with in the building, and she's like revealing herself and telling her story, and he's really interested, and she's saying how great it is. Now it's your turn, and he can't reveal himself. So he totally blows it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, my life is fine. I'm not as broken as you. Like he says something as cold and hard as that. But then later in the episode, he goes and he knocks on her door and he like, releases it all and tells her his real story. But my question, and it was like a wonderful transformation, right? Mm-hmm. And it was revealing and vulnerable and all of that.
Yeah.
How vulnerable can you get in a profile?
I know that's tough. And that's something that I coach my clients on, a lot actually, because a lot of people have a really hard time being vulnerable. I mean, I would say the majority of people do. And yet it's really near impossible to truly connect with someone unless you are vulnerable, right? And I know it's challenging, especially if you've been with the same person for many years, you haven't had to do that in so long. It's like, working a muscle you haven't worked out in a very long time. So, ease into it as much as you can and maybe not on your profile, but even on a first date, revealing something, that if you're feeling a connection with that person, revealing something. It doesn't have to be anything major or life-changing, but something about yourself, because you'll see a difference in the other person too. They will also then feel like they can share something with you. And that's the only way you can truly get to know someone and connect on another level. And again, I know it's hard because a lot of us have walls up and guards up and all of those things for good reasons, usually. But, just to really try to work on that. And that really, again, takes practice. So it might take a few dates before you're able to do that.
Right. So tell us about practice, right? So how do you practice this? So you just said it might take a few dates. Well, so many people invest so much emotional energy in that first date or that second first date or, a few first dates, and then all of a sudden they're off dating because they weren't great first dates. So
yeah, I see that happen quite a bit. Yeah. And listen, the thing about first dates that everyone forgets is that you don't need to go into that first date thinking, is this going to be my next partner? Is this going to be my life partner that I'm going to marry next? Go into each first date thinking, who am I going to meet tonight? Is it going to be a friend, maybe a business contact, maybe just a fun night out? Just go into it looking for an experience with a new person and try to really be curious about them and their life. And you'll see, again, it's reciprocal. If you're curious about someone, generally speaking, they will also be curious about you. And I feel like it's so important to remember that. And all you need to be thinking on the first date is, do I like them enough to go out on a second date? You don't need to be thinking, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this my soulmate?
Right.
Because you won't know that on the first date. You just need to know whether you like them enough to go on the second date.
Right. Right. There was a Netflix series, The Jewish Matchmaker or Jewish Matchmaking, and her theory was date them until you hate them. So it's kind of like a joke, but
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if I buy it, but I don't know if I don't buy it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like a much more extreme, shock jock way of saying what I teach too is it may take even 4 to 5 dates before you feel any real chemistry, and that builds, right? And so that's another thing people forget is people want to go out on their first or second date and they want this major sparks to fly and major chemistry. And if it doesn't happen, they think it's not the person for them. That is absolutely, I can say definitively, is not true. I know so many clients who I've encouraged to, like, again, do you want to go out on a third date? Yes. If the answer is yes, do the third date. If the answer is no, then don't. But, do you want to actually spend time with this person? Not, are they my soulmate yet? So spending time with that person. And then I've seen it happen again and again where that spark ends up coming, whether it's the 4th date, the 5th date. I've even seen it happen even after that. So I know a lot of people are like, I'm never going to give it that much time. But if it's somebody that's amazing, it's worth it, right? To test it out and see if that works. And I've seen it happen with a lot of clients and a lot of success stories that way.
It's also about patience. It's like anything we do. It doesn't happen instantly, right? We're learning, it's a dating muscle, right? You've been in a relationship for a really long time, and maybe you got lazy in taking care of that relationship, or maybe both of you did, so that you didn't do those things that were caretaking of the relationship anymore. Or maybe you thought you did, and so now you actually need to be interested. Like I was listening to a coaching video the other day, and what he suggested was ask interested questions, not interesting questions. When you're asking interesting questions, they're about you. But when you're asking interested questions, they're about the person you're talking to.
100%. Yes, I fully agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, you have to genuinely be curious about someone, and you can't fake that.
Yeah, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
And you'll know, if you're curious about the other person, they will feel like you care about what they have to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they'll ask you. And if they don't, then you'll know.
Right.
Like there are things you can do to get you closer to. So what does that go on?
To that point, I just want to say, and if the other person isn't asking you and questions in return and also seem curious about you, that's also maybe a red flag and maybe someone that you don't want to continue seeing, because it should be reciprocal. Yeah, it should be a two-way thing.
Right. If they're more interested in how interesting they are, then maybe they're not the person for you.
Yeah. Yep.
So what is your approach then? Like with the online part of it, like how do you help people style their profile?
Yeah. And so I really believe, I've been doing this now for almost 8 years. And then I online dated myself for 2.5 before I met my partner. And I really believe that with a really strong foundation, meaning a really strong profile that really represents you well and the best version of you, then you can start from there. Do you know what I mean? You really need that foundation before you can really truly jump in and feel like you're going to be successful with it. Because if your profile doesn't represent you well and you don't have good pictures and people can't really tell you what you look like, or they don't really get a sense, and your bio is generic and just like everybody else, it really is a hindrance. So starting with a really strong profile that truly represents you in an authentic way, and I know authentic is an overused word, but it's so appropriate for this, really truly represents you, then you can really feel like you're starting off on the right foot. And from there, then you need to, message with people and get to the actual dates. But, with a strong profile, you can do that.
So what's a strong profile?
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So obviously you want to have really good photos. And what I mean by that is high quality. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a professional photographer, but really spend time with, whether it's with a hired person or a friend or family member, spend the time. It's not like, hey, take a few photos of me right now in 5 minutes. No, you need someone who can really devote an hour with you on a Saturday or, whenever it is, and really spend the time and take 100 photos actually, and then you'll have a few good ones. And don't forget to change your outfit because you want to have multiple looks for your I see that happen a lot too, where people are like, I took all these photos with a friend and they're wearing the same thing, and you can't put more than one photo in. So so that's really important. High quality. You want a really good first photo that really shows you as best as like your face, smiling, eyes generally looking at the camera is great. No sunglasses, no hat, no shaded, trees shading your whole face. Really clear, high quality, in focus photos. And I say that because you'd be surprised how many people have grainy, bad quality photos. So the first photo is obviously really important. And then from there, you want to make sure you have a full length photo is really important. Something we recommend, maybe a social shot with a friend or, at a wedding or something like that. Another one is doing a hobby or an activity that you like to do. It's a good way to show who you are and also generates conversation. So those are really the 4 primary photos that you should have. And then from there, your bio really should be, unique to you and not, again, like you see the same things over and over again. For people who have been online, you know what I mean? It's like, I like to try new restaurants and I like yoga and red wine. You really have to branch out and really think about what's unique about you and say that in the profile. And people feel like they want to be as generic as possible to attract more people. No, you want to attract the people that are going to appreciate you for you. You don't want to appeal to everybody. So that's really, really important too.
So what about the dilemma when it seems like all the men or the opposite gender to whomever we're speaking with are like wearing the hats or the glasses or holding a fish or, you're not seeing people who you would want to match with.
Yeah, I mean that is part of it. You'll see a lot of bad profiles and you'll see a lot of people that you would not want to go out on a date with. But what I say to my clients and my community is anybody that's a maybe should be a yes for now. You know what I mean? And so anyone that's a hard no, of course, is a hard no. But anyone that's a maybe, like, oh, well, I don't know, his pictures aren't great, but, maybe. Swipe right on that person, message with them, see what happens. It may not go anywhere, but it may lead to a date and then see what happens. But I have to say all those success stories, there's a common theme, which is, a lot of people say that their profile didn't wow them. It was sort of like, ho-hum, and they messaged with them and went out and then it built from there. But I hear that again and again. So it really is something to keep in mind. If it's a maybe, then it should be a yes for now.
Okay. Yes for now. Okay, audience. Yes for now.
Until they prove you wrong. But yeah.
So let's talk about sort of so in Yiddish, we have a word like that's tachlis, which is like getting down to business. So the tachlis of the online dating. So how do you move, or when should you move from the chatting to actually making the date?
As soon as possible.
Okay. That's what I would say. In my experience of online dating, like enough with the chatting.
Yeah. It generally leads nowhere. If it goes on too long at past a point, it never ends up being a date. So just keep that in mind. I usually say 10 exchanges between the two of you. Once you establish a little bit of a rapport, I mean, I know it's hard on text exchanges, but as much as you can, try to at least get to, the next platform, meaning like a phone call, a FaceTime call, or ideally an in-person date. But even if you're vetting people out with a phone call or something, trying to get off the app, that is the point here, right? I think people rely on messaging back and forth on the apps too much, thinking some miracle is going to happen and they're just going to spontaneously end up on a date. No, you have to really make that happen as soon as possible.
Right.
And I started, a lot of my clients do this now too. I started saying, right away, messaging with somebody, I'd say, I like to make a date now, and then let's not message until the date. Other than to confirm it. And I had that hard boundary and people were kind of like, oh, okay. But people who got it. It's like, you don't want to message back and forth. Let's make a date, even if it's for 2 weeks from now. Let's make a date and then confirm ahead of time. But yeah, you want to get off the messaging. That just is a dead end road.
Yeah, no, I agree, because it gets to be too much. And then it's more like it just drags things out. And then you actually learn more things about them. And then you don't really want to date.
Yeah. Or what I've seen happen, and it happened to me too, is you message back and forth for however long, a week, 2 weeks, even sometimes more. And then you finally meet the person in person. And this happened with me. And it was nothing like what I expected. He was nowhere near as sensitive and sweet and kind as I thought he was from his messages. And it was like this kind of jolt. And I kind of even went against my usual. I usually recommend only a drink or coffee for your first date, because you don't want to get stuck at dinner with someone, for 2 hours. And if you already know, within a few minutes. And I made a dinner date with him. And within, 10, 15 minutes, I knew that he was completely different than how I thought he was going to be. So it's a fantasy idea that you create about somebody, messaging back and forth with them. And everybody does it. I see it happen all the time. Men do it with women too. You create this fantasy about how the person is going to be. And inevitably, it's going to be a letdown, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's best to just get off the app as quickly as possible.
Get off the app, meet, and form an in-person relationship.
Yeah. And remember, again, I'm going to repeat myself a million times, but it's so important. Remember, you're just trying to decide whether you want to get to the second date. A good kind of gauge is, would you want to be friends with this person? Would you want to go to a movie with them next weekend? Would you want to go grab a coffee with them? If the answer is yes, then go on a second date, even if there's no chemistry, if there's no attraction yet. Another way I explain it is, you don't choose your friends based on how they look, and you choose them on how they treat you, and you don't care about how much money they make. You don't care about, how tall they are, all of those things that we put so much weight in. And
right.
That you need to be attracted to the person. I get that 1,000%. I'm not saying be with someone you're not attracted to, but we put way too much weight on these superficial things.
Yeah. But I wonder though, if I guess I have plenty of clients who are in the gray divorce area, and they feel like they're in a different stage of life. So they don't necessarily feel like they have the same time, or younger people who are like feeling like they have a biological clock. So there are different things that people feel they have pressure to make a decision. Like, I can't waste time. So those are impacting people's decisions.
Yeah. The biological clock one is real. And I work with clients in their 30s as well that are going through that. And it's tough, because I've seen people settle for someone that's not quite right because they wanted to make sure they had time to have a family. And I know it's rough. I understand. I'm not diminishing it at all. But one thing you can do, I know you don't have a lot of time necessarily to go out on 10 dates with someone to see if there's chemistry. But one thing you can do is be very clear on your first date, even like, listen, I want to start a family soon. If that's not something that's on your horizon in the near future, it's not a match. And that's okay. And I think a lot of women are afraid to do that because they're afraid of scaring men off. But listen, that you don't want to waste your time on someone who's going to 3 years from now say, actually, I don't think I want, I'm not ready for that yet. I mean, yeah. So I think you just need to be upfront as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's a big one. So the dating thing has a lot of potholes, I think. But at the same time, you don't want to miss the adventure, right? Dating can be an adventure. And so do you have any stories from the field that looked like they were going to go south, but actually were great stories in the end?
Yeah, I mean, a common one is, misreading each other on texting, because there is a lot of texting with dating. Even once you get off the app and you've met the person several times, even in the first few months of dating, a lot of it is through text until you get to the next date. And I see a lot of miscommunication on text, and where, somebody's convinced that the person is, not interested anymore, or blowing them off, or dating someone else, or whatever the idea is in your head. And when it comes down to it, and when they confront the person, it's like completely not what they thought. It was like a texting miscommunication. And you can really misread people's tone in texts. And that's a tough one too. And, which is also why you should try to have phone calls more often.
Yeah.
I know it's tough in modern times. It's like hardly ever anyone talks on the phone anymore, unless it's like your mother or something. I feel like.
I know.
But yeah, I think it's important to have those phone calls or FaceTime calls in between dates to make sure that you're not missing a connection that could be lost over text. So I see that happen frequently.
It's really important. And that's another one where you can set some boundaries, right? About what you want to text about and what you want to talk about.
Yes.
And if
100%.
a text comes across and it's unclear, maybe that's where you can say, hey, I need to talk.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Absolutely.
And be brave, right?
100%.
That's be courageous.
Yes, 100%. And I love that you just said that, because it is really, it's something that people really talk themselves out of, like, oh no, I don't want to make it a big deal, or I don't want to, but if it's on your mind, the best thing to do is just get it out in the open in a lighthearted way before it turns into something else. And so I agree with you. And another thing is to ask for things that are important to you when you're dating someone new. If you like to get a daily text, or you like to check in daily, or maybe you don't check in daily, like, I'm really busy, don't take it personally, can we check in every other day, or whatever it is, make sure you're clear with those things, because a lot of people don't know that. And if you ask for it, if it's the right partnership, they'll be like, great, okay, sounds good.
Yeah. It's about communication, right? And so communication from the profile, from what you want to communicate to the outside world. And then once you're in a dating relationship, it's how you set the boundaries for what you want to be your communication style.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. From styling your profile to styling your communication, and maybe recognizing that now you have a chance to like really set the stage yourself, right? This is a new relationship. These are new ground rules that you get to decide.
Yep. Yes.
And I say it all the time. You get to. It's not that you have to. It's not that someone's making you, but you get to decide.
And that's an empowering way to say it. Yeah, it really is. Like, this is a positive thing.
Yeah. It's positive.
I know.
So thank you so much, Alyssa. This has been a great interview, a great story, and I'd love you to style my profile. But I do have a partner that I met on Match, so thank you.
Nice. Oh, I don't know your success story. I'd love to hear it sometime.
So we can have another podcast and we'll talk about it. So tell me remind us again, how can my audience find you?
Yeah, the best way is to go to my website, stylemyprofilenyc.com. And that really has everything. It has my, Instagram, Facebook. You can sign up for a consultation call with me. It has all the information, all my packages. So that's the best way.
Okay, wonderful. And for my audience, you can always find me at lzlcoaching.com, and you can reach me by email, lisa@lzlcoaching.com. So for everyone, have a great holiday, and we will see you next Tuesday at Dishing on Divorce with Lisa